I'm Liyana Hassanel, and this is Nightline, news making the headlines. Government looking at relaxing 3 main SOP measures, says Prime Minister. And Ringgit remains competitive despite geopolitical tensions. Good morning. The government is mulling to ease the restrictions for 3 standard operating procedure SOP practices to curb the spread of COVID-19, which will be announced soon. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said the 3 SOPs were still being assessed and discussed at the Health Ministry level. Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri said the 3 key measures involved the wearing of face masks, scanning of the MySejahtera application when entering premises, and COVID-19 detection tests.
Kita akan tengok dari segi mas pula apa yang jadi Kementerian Kesihatan akan berbincang dan melihat dari segi pro and cons dia dari segi melibatkan mas dan sebagainya. Lepas tu kita akan mungkin dari segi MySejahtera perlu tak perlu nak mengimbas lagi setiap tempat kita nak masuk, kan? Ataupun di airport bila balik kena ada cek dari segi PCR test ataupun RT antigen, masih lagi kena sampai sama ada adakah perlu lagi atau tidak perlu. Jadi inilah perkara yang akan kita tengok.
Meanwhile, Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri said the government would also take into consideration the people's concerns if the SOP is loosened too much. Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin on Friday reported that more SOP would be eased in the coming weeks. In other news, Datuk Seri Ismail said a special cabinet committee for protecting vulnerable groups has been set up to safeguard their welfare, especially children, persons with disabilities, women and senior citizens. He said the committee is chaired by him and has representatives from the Ministries of Women, Family and Community Development, Home, Education, Housing and Local Government and Health, and the Prime Minister's Department of Religious Affairs. Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri said the committee would ensure that all care centres are operated according to procedure in line with the Care Centres Act 1993. The Prime Minister was met after visiting Down syndrome girl Bella at a welfare home under the supervision of the Social Welfare Department in Seremban on Saturday. He said he found Bella to be in good condition, having a high level of self-confidence and could manage herself well.
Bella ditempatkan di sini sejak daripada 5 Julai dan daripada pemerhatian saya tadi saya dapati adik Bella dalam keadaan yang normal, tidak ada lagi gangguan emosi seperti ketika mula-mula masuk, malah kecederaan, luka dan sebagainya telah pun pulih.
He added the government took a serious view of the incident which befell Bella, who is alleged to have been tortured and neglected since 2020. Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri advised those following the developments concerning Bella to place their full trust in the court to make a ruling on the teenager's case. The ringgit remains competitive with inflation in check, despite headwinds from global geopolitical tensions and uncertainties. The Finance Ministry MOF said Malaysia's strong external position, which includes a healthy current account surplus and a net external creditor position, has significantly improved the country's ability to withstand such volatility and external shocks. The ministry said in a statement on Saturday, Malaysia's fundamentals remain robust, as indicated by consistent export growth and competitiveness, ample foreign reserves, as well as low inflation trajectory in comparison to peers within the region. All these are expected to cushion further the ringgit's decline. On Friday, the ringgit hit 4.30 to the US dollar, a level last seen in June 2020. The MOF noted that the ringgit's depreciation has tracked the general weakening of major and regional currencies. The prospect of a more aggressive monetary tightening by the US Federal Reserve with a 50 basis point rate hike expected in May was also among the factors that have influenced the recent movement in the ringgit. In terms of inflation, the Finance Ministry said the price control policies imposed by the government, as well as subsidies allocated for the raw 95 petroleum and various food items, will protect the people from any implications of further inflationary pressures. Malaysia's inflation rate this year is expected to be between 2.2% to 3.2%, compared to 2.5% in 2021, lower than other countries within ASEAN. The Parliamentary Public Accounts Committee, PAC, will table its report on the MySejahtera mobile application issue in the Dewan Rakyat when the lower house sits in July. Its chairman, Wong Kah-Woh, said a debate on the issue should not be delayed, while urging Dewan Rakyat Speaker Tan Sri Azhar Azizan Harun to allow members of Parliament to do so for at least a day. In a statement on Saturday's hearing, Wong said the PAC received explanations and evidence from 3 agencies under the Prime Minister's department, namely the Malaysian Administrative Modernisation and Management Planning Unit, MAMPU, National Security Council, NSC, and National Cyber Security Agency, NACSA. He added that the PAC will review all evidence, documents and minutes of the meeting obtained, and it will decide whether there is a need to call other witnesses. Wong also said there were 4 main areas that the committee had focused on during Saturday's proceeding, including the lack of an official contract between the government and app developer and the ownership of the MySejahtera application. Previously, Wong had stated that the government was confused and unable to find out who had decided on the development and procurement of MySejahtera. He also pointed out that there has been no formal contract entered between the government and KPI Soft Sdn Bhd, which was appointed to develop the MySejahtera app in April 2020, aside from a non-disclosure agreement signed between the NSC and the company on the data collected via the app. The Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, MACC, has opened an investigation on Court of Appeal Judge Datuk Muhammad Nazlan Muhammad Ghazali in relation to the allegation of unexplained money in his bank account. MACC Chief Commissioner Tan Sri Azam Baki confirmed this in a report published by The Star on Saturday. Tan Sri Azam told the English Daily that the probe was launched after reports were lodged on the matter and not because of claims made on portals and social media. However, he was quoted as saying that the investigation was still in the early stage and declined to reveal more details. Datuk Nazlan was the judge who convicted former Prime Minister Datuk Sri Muhammad Najib Tun Razak over the misappropriation of 42 million ringgit of SRC International Sdn Bhd funds. On Wednesday, an article by blogger Raja Petra Kamarudin posted on the blog Malaysia Today had alleged that the judge was being investigated for an unexplained 1 million ringgit in his bank account. Datuk Nazlan lodged a police report against the blog the following day, saying the accusations were malicious, baseless, and aimed at tarnishing his credibility as a judge. The government will review the issuance of United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR cards to Rohingya refugees in the country. Home Minister Datuk Sri Hamzah Zainuddin said the study had to be done following the escape of hundreds of Rohingya detainees from the Sungai Bakap Immigration Detention Depot near Bandar Baharu on Wednesday.
Kita tidak boleh memberi ruang supaya mereka ini dapat dengan mudahnya orang datang masuk negara kita tanpa dokumen, lepas tu terus nak pergi dapat dekat UNHCR. Itu sesuatu yang tak betul. Dari sebab itu saya ambil satu sikap yang tegas bahawa kad UNHCR itu bukan bermakna bahawa dia boleh tinggal dalam negara kita sampai bila-bila.
Datuk Sri Hamzah said this to reporters after handing over donations to 1,000 underprivileged people from Larut Parliamentary Constituency at Dewan Astaka Batu Kurau on Saturday. In the 4:30 a.m. incident on Wednesday, 528 Rohingya detainees fled from the depot following a riot. During the escape, 6 detainees, including 2 children, were killed after being mowed down by a car while trying to cross the North-South Expressway near Jawi, Pulau Pinang. Authorities have so far managed to re-arrest 448 of the Rohingya detainees and were tracking down the remaining 80 escapees. The newly launched Social Entrepreneurship Action Framework 2030, or SEMI 2030, provides a new national direction for the development of social entrepreneurship in Malaysia. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said it gives focus on the development of an effective regulatory and governance framework to ensure social enterprises operate with responsibility and accountability, apart from building confidence of the people and the private sector. According to Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri, SEMI 2030 outlines 5 objectives in line with the aspirations, strategies and initiatives set out under the Shared Prosperity Vision 2030, National Entrepreneurship Policy 2030 and 12th Malaysia Plan.
Ini merupakan asas untuk membangunkan sebuah ekosistem yang komprehensif dan kondusif dalam menyokong pertumbuhan keusahawanan sosial di Malaysia. Plan ini turut menggariskan inisiatif untuk meningkatkan kesedaran, jangkauan dan pembudayaan konsep keusahawanan sosial yang berdaya maju dan memberi impak positif kepada peningkatan kehidupan masyarakat.
The Prime Minister said this when launching SEMI 2030 in Kuala Lumpur on Saturday. The framework, developed by the Entrepreneur Development and Cooperatives Ministry, outlines targeted strategies for enhancing the capability and competency of social enterprises. This includes providing more structured training on the adaptation of technology and digitalization, widening access to financing and financial support, and providing facilitation for access to the domestic and international markets. The ministry would also review and upgrade the framework for registration and accreditation of existing social enterprises to enable them to get wider access to aid and opportunities to grow. Meanwhile, Entrepreneur Development and Cooperatives Minister Tan Sri Noh Omar at the same event said private companies that are participating in efforts to empower social enterprises under SEMI 2030 will be given income tax exemption for 3 years. This was among the benefits offered by the government to encourage the private sector to provide social assistance to the people in need, such as the B40 group, single mothers, orang asli community, ex-convicts and former drug addicts.
Sebagai contoh, kalau kata satu syarikat keusahawanan ini membuat produk jahitan, apa dia boleh buat? Dia boleh bagi orang-orang kampung yang B40 ini untuk membuat jahitan. Dia terlibat sama. Jadi oleh itu dia di samping usahawan ini memberi peluang pekerjaan kepada golongan-golongan yang memerlukan, syarikat ini, usahawan ini pula mendapat beberapa faedah daripada pihak kerajaan. Sebagai contoh, syarikat ini dia boleh dikecualikan cukai pendapatan dalam tempoh tertentu.
He also said although the government has given various types of assistance to the needy all this time, the private sector support is still needed to provide them continuous protection. Through SEMI 2030, the government hopes to increase the country's social enterprise revenue to 2.6 billion ringgit in 2030, compared to about 100 million ringgit currently. It also aims to create 92,000 job opportunities for locals based on the target of creating 10,000 social enterprises in the same period. It is estimated that currently there are only 414 social enterprise companies in the country, providing 3,500 job opportunities. A man died from severe injuries after he crashed into a 12-meter tree while paragliding in Bukit Batu Pahat, Kuala Kubu Baru, Selangor on Saturday. Selangor Fire and Rescue Department Director Nur Azam Khamis said the victim, Muhammad Farhat Khalid, 44, from Subang Jaya, suffered from severe bleeding and a fractured leg in the crash. He said the department received a distress call about the incident at 4:56 p.m. and 7 firefighters from the Kuala Kubu Baru Fire and Rescue Station were rushed to the location. According to Nur Azam, several orang asli who were at the crash site had climbed up the tree and secured the victim with the lines from the paraglider to ensure that he did not fall. He added the firefighters took 2 hours to lower the victim down from the tree. The victim was pronounced dead by the medical team en route to the Kuala Kubu Baru Hospital. More local news later in the bulletin. But first, after this breather, Sri Lanka protesters call for a leader to step down. Don't go away. foreign news. Israel on Saturday said it will close its only crossing from the Gaza Strip for workers in response to overnight rocket fire, stopping short of conducting retaliatory strikes in an apparent bid to ease tensions. According to Israeli officials, it was decided that crossings into Israel for Gazan merchants and workers through the Erez crossing will not be permitted this upcoming Sunday, following the rockets fired toward Israeli territory from the Gaza Strip on Friday night. 2 rockets were fired from Gaza at southern Israel, one of them hitting the Jewish state and the other falling short and striking near a residential building in northern Gaza. Meanwhile, a 3rd rocket was fired at Israel on Saturday morning with no air raid sirens activated for any of the launches. Israel had retaliated against those attacks with airstrikes, but in an apparent desire to prevent further violence, it shifted the response to the painful economic measure of closing Erez, implying that further rockets would extend the penalty. It was said that the reopening of the crossing will be decided in accordance with the security situational assessment. The rocket attacks came as Israeli police clashed with Palestinian protesters at Al-Aqsa Mosque, leaving at least 1 man hospitalized in serious condition. Russian forces have resumed airstrikes and are trying to storm the Azov steel works on Saturday, where Ukraine's remaining forces in Mariupol are holding out. According to Ukrainian presidential advisor Oleksiy Arestovich, Moscow is trying to strangle the final resistance of the Mariupol defenders in the Azovstal area. He added that Russian forces have resumed airstrikes on the territory of the plant on the defense lines of Ukrainian troops and are attempting to carry out assault operations. Despite the difficult situation, Arestovich said that Ukrainian military has also launched counterattacks in order to hold out. There are about 1,000 civilians and Ukrainian troops at the Azovstal plant in Mariupol, including about 500 wounded. In Sri Lanka, its Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa came under increased pressure to step down on Saturday as a cabinet minister and other senior party members backed street protests, calling for resignations over a worsening economic crisis. Media Minister Nalaka Godahewa has announced his support for the thousands outside President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's office, who are demanding the president and other members of his family quit power. Godahewa said the president should sack his elder brother, Mahinda Rajapaksa, and allow an all-party interim government to take over. He said the government had lost its credibility after the police killing of a protester on Tuesday. Sri Lanka is suffering its most painful economic downturn since independence in 1948, with months of lengthy blackouts and acute shortages of food, fuel, and other essentials. Mariners prevail in A-League Derby Classic. Sports coming up next. Max Kruse grabbed a hat-trick as Wolfsburg thrashed visitors Mainz 5-0 in the German Bundesliga, scoring all of their goals in the first half of the match. Jonas Wind put the Wolves ahead in the 8th minute before Kruse doubled the home side's lead from the penalty spot. Kruse then scored the goal of the game to make it 3-0 and later completed his hat-trick in the first half stoppage time, shortly after Wind made it a brace of goals. It was the perfect response from Florian Koffel's team, who lost 6-1 to Borussia Dortmund in their previous match after also conceding 5 goals before half-time. Still on football, Central Coast Mariners have seized control of their A-League Men Finals destiny after escaping an enthralling derby clash with a 4-2 win over the Newcastle Jets on Saturday. A goal from Brazilian attacker Moreski and a brace from Jason Cummings in the opening stanza seemingly had them sitting pretty at McDonald Jones Stadium on Saturday night. But after being left to stew in the dressing room by coach Arthur Pappas, the Jets forced their way back to 3-2 within 5 minutes of the resumption, thanks to Lucas Moraes and an own goal from Jacob Farrell. And in a thrilling finish, 17-year-old Darren Cool netted in the 91st minute to make it 4-2 for Mariners. The result means Mariners secured their second derby win of 2021 to 2022, and coach Nick Montgomery's side have now vaulted into 5th position on the A-League table on 33 points. And while 6th-placed Wellington also have 33 points and retain a game in hand, now 7th and 8th-placed MacArthur and Sydney FC are 1 and 2 points adrift of the Mariners, despite playing 1 game more. Their next test will come against 2nd-placed Western United in a week's time. Johor Customs foils a bid to smuggle alcohol worth 1.8 million ringgit. This and more from the local front when we return. Welcome back. A couple in their 60s were almost killed when a fire broke out on the 3rd floor of a 3-story shop house at Jalan Pasir Putih in Ipoh, Perak on Saturday morning. Their lives were saved thanks to quick action by firemen who powered through thick smoke to rescue the trapped victims in the 8 a.m. incident. Pasir Putih Fire and Rescue Station Chief Muhammad Fadzli Che Hussein said a distress call on the fire was received at 8:04 a.m. and a team of firemen from Ipoh and volunteer firemen from Pekanbaru and Pasir Pinji were dispatched to bring the flames under control. Upon arrival, the team was informed by members of the public about the trapped victims and immediately carried out search and rescue works before finding the couple in front of a burning room.
Anggota kita menjumpai didapati mangsa dalam keadaan sangat lemah dan disyaki sesak nafas akibat daripada asap yang kuatlah. Dan kita pantas mengangkat mangsa tersebut turun ke bawah.
Both victims were given initial treatment by the Emergency Medical Rescue Services Unit before being taken to Raja Permaisri Bainun Hospital for further treatment. The blaze was finally brought under control about 10 minutes later. However, the cause of the fire and amount of losses have yet been determined. The Johor Customs Department foiled an attempt to smuggle alcohol worth 1.8 million ringgit, including in unpaid taxes, after inspecting a bonded cargo lorry on the Second Link Expressway in Iskandar Puteri last Thursday. Customs Director General Datuk Sri Abdul Latif Abdul Kadir said during the inspection, the lorry was found carrying 22,400 litres of alcohol in more than 36,700 bottles and cans of various brands. In the 1:30 a.m. incident, an enforcement team began trailing the lorry from Sultan Iskandar Highway with several other vehicles, believed to be Tontos, attempting to prevent the customs vehicles from following. Authorities then managed to intercept the lorry. However, the driver turned aggressive and rammed into a customs car, forcing one of its members to fire 7 shots at the tires of the lorry.
Pemandu lori seterusnya bertindak memberhentikan kenderaan di laluan kanan sekali dan kemudian melarikan diri ke seberang lebuh raya. Namun tindakan pantas pasukan serbuan dan dibantu oleh anggota polis telah berjaya mengejar dan memberkas pemandu tersebut kira-kira 1 kilometer dari tempat kejadian.
The consignment was believed to have been smuggled into Malaysia from a neighbouring country and meant to be distributed in the local market. The 44-year-old driver, who is a local and has 2 previous criminal records, is being investigated under the Customs Act and Excise Act. Over in Italy, the 59th edition of the Venice Art Biennale opened its doors to the public on Saturday until November 27th. 213 artists from 58 countries took part in the exhibition under the title The Milk of Dreams. Visuals of the exhibition wraps up Nightline this time around. And with that, I'm Liyana Hassanel. Thank you for tuning in, and to our Muslim viewers, Selamat Berpuasa.